they kill a lot of folks.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I mean, like, are stun settings not a thing in the theater?
Yeah.
Hey, Internet. It's Paul. It's Matt. The Dork Lords. We're here talking about Star Trek Discovery, Season 3, Episode 1, That Hope Is You, Part 1. All right, so we're back. Star Trek Discovery. We've covered the first 2 seasons, and we are now into Season 3. We open the episode with a little recap of what happened at the end of Season 2, and then we are introduced to a montage of this lonely guy who kind of wakes up, brushes his teeth, goes to work every day. We find out more about that person at the end of the episode.
Yes.
And we end that episode with this guy. His name is Aditya, and he is a member of Starfleet. He's working on a star base. He's the only human there, which, damn, that's a lonely life. But he's been very conscientious, doing his job, and Burnham meets with him in order to try to track the Discovery. So together, they try to see if the Discovery is somewhere in the quadrant. They can't find the Discovery, but the tracking resources are fairly meager, so whether the Discovery's there and just can't be found, or whether the Discovery hasn't shown up yet, still a mystery. Also, Burnham commissions Aditya as an officer.
Yes.
And together they drop the flag, the Federation flag, and that is the end of our episode. Good sir, what did you think of our start off? We're going to talk more about this, obviously, but
sure.
Your initial thoughts on episode 1.
I enjoyed it. I'm very interested in the premise that it's suggesting. One thing that I have heard from a different podcast, actually, called Vulcan Hello, that apparently very similar, and if Wikipedia is to believe, very similar to the idea of another Roddenberry property called Andromeda. It used to be called Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda, but it's just referred to as Andromeda.
The name sounds familiar. Can't say I know much
Well,
about
it starred Kevin Sorbo. The basic idea of it, if I understand it correctly, is Kevin Sorbo is he's the captain of this ship, and it has an AI that can manifest itself, in a physical form. It's a form of a woman. Kevin Sorbo's ship was attacked, and he says, "Oh, abandon ship," but he tries to steer it or whatever, and somehow becomes frozen in time for 303 years or something. So
Captain
hundreds
America,
of years.
Hercules.
Right. And so by the time he is awakened by some people, the group that he knew about dead, no longer existing.
Futurama. Okay. So in this situation, we've got Burnham coming from the 23rd century to the 32nd century. I think she's in 3188.
Right. Yeah. So almost 1,000 years.
And correct me if I'm wrong here. I'm a little. The details are a little fuzzy. It's been a little while since season 2 happened, but she's coming through a wormhole.
Yes.
She is in the Red Angel suit, the time
Yes.
travel suit.
Yes.
And she created the portal. Whomp.
Yep. Whomp.
She goes through. Discovery's coming through after her.
Correct.
We pick up with, as she comes through this wormhole, she is hit. She's clipped by the ship belonging to this guy, Book. We'll talk more about him in a second. But his ship hits her, disables his ship, but also sends her careening to a nearby planet, which is not the planet she wanted to go, I think. And Discovery has not just followed her through behind her immediately. We're assuming. The thought is they mentioned the idea that perhaps it might be 1,000 years before the Discovery comes through.
Yeah, or it might be the next day.
Temporal mechanics. Yeah.
Yes.
It will not be 1,000 years because we see in the trailer that they're there. So
Yes.
they're coming. And they never arrived. Like, oh, man. After successfully landing, crash landing, but survives, she sends the suit back. And this is the part where I was a little fuzzy. Okay, she sets it to self-destruct, and she sends it back through the wormhole.
Right, yeah.
So theoretically,
the wormhole's collapsing, so she doesn't have much time. So she says, "Go! You're gonna go to these coordinates, and then you will destruct.
Okay, so what that's doing is, first of all, it's getting rid of the suit.
Yep.
So it can't be used for evil purposes. But also, it's notifying Spock and, say, some others back in the past that the mission's complete.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes.
All right. So she does that. The suit disappears and blows up. We assume. I don't know. Actually, you could conspiracy theory that maybe it's the suit that causes the burn. But I don't know.
We know that we did see that scene of Spock seeing the suit and the explosion or whatever at the end of the episode, so we know that it happened.
Yep. Good point. So that is one of the big the MacGuffin of the season, apparently, because you see in the trailer they keep bringing this up, like what's the mystery of the burn?
Yes.
So the burn is this huge catastrophic event that happened, I think I said a couple hundred years before 3188. And it basically all the dilithium in the galaxy blew up at the same time. So it killed a bunch of folks, disabled a bunch of ships. The Federation kind of went off course at that point. And there's not a reason necessarily why. Why did the dilithium go boom all at the same time? Was it sabotage? Was it overuse? Was it
some natural disaster or something that only if they paid attention to how dilithium was used, maybe they could have reverted it.
Which reminds me of season 2. Remember, we had this character that was introduced. She's the leader of a planet that was like processed the crap out of dilithium, and she was like Tilly's friend,
right?
And she was involved in, I think, even at the very end of season 2.
Yeah,
I'm thinking it might be possible. I can't remember if she was on Discovery or not at the time that it comes through. But if she is, I could imagine, because she was like, she knew all about dilithium and how to crystallize it and all these. So I could imagine she might be important if dilithium is such a rare commodity and they're trying to figure out how to use it.
Sure.
So let's talk about Book for a second.
Sure.
This is the other main character in this episode and probably the season.
Yes. They have a fight cute.
I was like, where have I seen him before? He was on a show we covered on Dork Lords, Night Flyers. Night Flyers, not a great show, frankly, but he was good in it. No knock on him as an actor. Just the show wasn't that great. But it was a sci-fi show, sci-fi space show, in fact. So Book is a courier, but he's got a bit of a conscience. Apparently there was like an Endangered Species Act that is no longer really enforced, but he's kind of taken it upon himself to kind of enforce that act. And so when we pick up, he has stolen cargo, which is actually an endangered species, from another courier. He's got a magical ability. His forehead will glow, and he can commune with nature.
Yes.
We see him like conjure up a salve out of like a water plant.
Right.
And he communes with this giant worm after it's consumed Burnham. So he's got powers.
Yes, he does.
And I'm not sure. Have we seen? Is that in Star Trek lore?
I don't feel as if it is. I certainly haven't seen it reported. One thing I saw with an interview with the actor and Will Wheaton in the Ready Room show is he realized during the conversation that Burnham was there watching him have both experiences. So I don't know if that's why that's important, but he sort of realized it at the time. So it's possible that maybe his other couriers don't know that he has that ability. He did say that amongst his people, not everybody can do it. Just a small amount, so it'll skip several generations or whatever. Which he's. And because of that, he doesn't have much use for his people, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to be like, oh, I've got hitchhiker's thumb. Every once in a while, there's a recessive gene. Another thing to be like, whoa, I can affect plants. And anyway,
Yes.
that's a pretty big, nice little plus. That's a good perk.
Yes.
Book. He also has a pet cat, on board that he calls Grudge, I believe.
Yes.
And the other courier, the courier that he stole from, which looks like a vulture, I'm guessing like scavengers, mentioned something like, I'm going to kill your cat.
Right.
And he says something about it's a queen?
Yes.
Anyway, so there's the fact that he's looking after endangered species and his little familiar on board as a cat makes one think this is probably not just a cat. And I'm hoping it's not leaning into like the Flurkin territory. It's not Goose.
Yes.
MCU fame, but there's something about that cat that I think is special. And it's special anyway because cats are awesome, Paul.
Oh, okay.
But I think this cat is more special than most cats. I'll say that.
If it turns out that the cat is not so special, I expect to be delighted.
Okay.
The level to which people do become attached to cats is,
is awesome and makes people human, and we're not robots, Paul.
Oh, wouldn't it be great if people were robots? Oh, I wish we were robots. It's like, I'm sure you'd like to be like the Data kind of robot who had a cat, but
that's a good point.
I would prefer the robots who don't, can take or leave cats and pets altogether.
Noted. Evil Paul.
Yes, that's right.
Heartless. Different hijinks go on in that book. Kind of sells out Burnham at one point.
Yes.
He likes the fact that she's got this antique tech.
Yes.
Which is just her tech. And so he's trying to sell it in order to get more dilithium. Eventually, they are basically the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing, and now they seem to have come to terms. He's not an evil guy. She's not an evil person. They figured out that, we can get along in this world. And so he's the one that actually takes her to this Aditya, the lone Starfleet guy that he knows probably,
right?
To try to find her ship. A couple things, little small things, like, are there universal translators happening here, or is this just like a Star Trek thing where it's like everybody speaks English? It's like she goes way in the future and everybody can talk to everybody.
They do. Well, they do have the one person who we have to read subtitles for, right? That guy who's chasing him in the first.
Guy,
yeah, the guy who's chasing him at first, and then he engages him again in order to get. So that all that time we saw was just subtitles. So, but he didn't. It's not like he needed to read the subtitles or anything.
That's true.
He understood. Book could understand him. So,
I speak Vulture.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we saw is a number of new technologies. So, I feel as if in the past, maybe the original series, it might have been established that people through the Enterprise are getting a universal translator. I don't know. Certainly, the reason why I bring up the technologies in this show is because there's people having individual transporters as opposed to the ship transporting people.
Don't need the pods.
Yeah, and one thing he said, which was interesting, Book was saying in terms of the technology, is how he had to guess coordinates. So once they were in the transport chase, it took 30 seconds for it to recharge, and he had to guess coordinates. And that, I mean, presumably that's not an ability he has. Presumably everybody has to guess. The tracking is another element of that. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you guys do, the level of how the translators exist, but
it's a small point. Maybe they're just one of those, like, we're not going to spend a lot of time working on different languages. Hell with it. We're communicating great.
Well, that since that was a technology they had in the original series,
right?
It's like, now we've gone back.
Now we only speak Vulture. Just on that, the transporter chase, we'll call it, was a cool chase. It was interesting. Yeah. They kill a lot of folks.
Yes.
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 I'm like, Are stun settings not a thing in the theater?
Yeah.
I mean, these are security guards. I mean, sure, they're hostile, but I don't know. I'm like, man, these guys aren't going up to their families.
Right.
Like, man, they just like. Also, the strategy of the security guys, a pretty terrible strategy. It's like, okay, these guys are armed, and they're trying to get away from us. So every time they jump, we'll track them a few seconds later, and we'll show up. Gives them enough time to just point guns at us. And then as soon as we show up, they shoot us, leave. We do it again. There's fewer of us. It's like maybe a shield, I don't know, like somehow. They have to show up blind and get shot every damn 2 seconds. Yeah, so.
It didn't seem like, though, it was the number of them was decreasing as much to me.
That's a good point. There were always.
So it's possible that, like, I'm phasing in, I'm going to shoot you. Oh, shoot, you screwed up my phase. I'm going to try it again.
Oh, I just assumed there were different guys.
Right. Well,
I
maybe
like your interpretation better.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is better.
Okay.
Because then it's like, now that we found you, we're just mad. It's like, you just killed a whole bunch of us. It should really be more of an issue. Yeah.
All the security.
Yeah.
New charges.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sure. Maybe it was just they were interfering with their jumps. I'll go with that.
Right. Because, I mean, I think one of the things we could assume was, or maybe we couldn't, but when Burnham was jumping, that she was using her own weapon, which she would not, kill. She would, So it's possible she was using a weapon of his, and maybe she wouldn't have knowledge about how to adjust it so that.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right. Oops, I killed the guy. Oh,
yeah.
Shoot. Okay. Another historical fact that we've learned that's going to affect the season is there was this thing, the Temporal War. I'm not up on Star Trek Enterprise, but apparently it was mentioned in Star Trek Enterprise. But the Temporal War, apparently the Gorn wiped out a whole sector of space. And so time travel and such became outlawed, or they destroyed. I don't know. Somehow that suit would have been helpful because it's like the one time travel device that's allowed, I guess. But somehow that's affected this particular quadrant. This temporal war had some big lasting impact. I think the main theme that we see developed here is you've got, for instance, Book. Hey, the Endangered Species Act is no longer a thing, but I'm an individual, and I'm going to uphold the standard because I feel like it's the right thing to do. I feel like maybe, I don't know. It'd be interesting to watch this scene again because certainly Burnham has more of a sense of this Endangered Species Act as a part of Starfleet. But Book talking about Starfleet has been dead since before he's been born. Yeah, so him talking about some Endangered Species Act doesn't really make sense to me because it's like, so I feel more as if he's just doing the right thing. He's just trying without to do the right some thing. Idea about doing the right thing. So it's not like I'm continuing the spirit of the that's bullshit. Okay.
You
feel like it's just more like one person doing the right thing in the absence of a structure that would help him do the right thing.
Right, exactly, yes.
Similar to Aditya, without the structure, he's still trying to do what his parents, his dad and his grandfather did. He's trying to do what he thinks is the right thing.
I think so.
I assume that's kind of where we're going with Burnham, is that Burnham is an individual and she's put in a place where there is no federation, and she's going to attempt to maybe unify the quadrant or something because it's the right thing to do. And so you don't need necessarily this giant power structure. You can create it, or as long as there's people. It's all about people.
Right, and apparently one of the themes that's going to be addressed perhaps is ideas or aspects of Starfleet that maybe aren't relevant anymore. So in the whole establishing and recommunication of the people that are Starfleet, and maybe trying to establish a need for Starfleet to re-exist, maybe. I mean, one of the cool things, the things I liked anyway about Deep Space Nine, is that there were people who were outside the Federation who were critical of the Federation, and therefore maybe that's another aspect that they're trying to bring about, which is looking at the factions that exist at the time there are now, and what they need and what they would need in order to reestablish the Federation.
So let's talk about this real fast. I think we have differing opinions on this, but so she's jumped 900 years in the future.
Yes.
And she's told, hey, Federation a couple hundred years ago or 100, it's phased out. It's still around, but not really.
Right.
We learned that, for instance, there's 2 Federation ships that can be found on the sensors. So there's something's out there
in that sector, and there are probably a number of them in other sectors.
So it's not completely gone, but it's no longer a power.
Yeah, and Book says about how he feels about the people that he sees who are a part of Starfleet, who whenever he meets them, they're like really gung-ho about Starfleet, even though, come on, they're dead. So, he says that they're looking after ghosts.
Right. Okay. So, she keeps saying like it's impossible. It's impossible that they could be gone.
I didn't like her saying impossible. I'll agree. It's sort of like
you have an expectation that 900 years in the future, your company, for lack of a better word, is still around. Like, you mean Kinko's isn't a thing anymore? I had a job there.
Again, you're deliberately minimizing. It's not code. It's like she's she's a military person. So really, it's saying like the government of the United States is not around anymore. Is the equivalent.
Which, again, put me in that situation. I jump forward 900 years, so I'm in the year 3000.
Right.
I would not have an expectation that the U.S. would still be out. I'd hope. I'd be like, well, I'd look it up. Oh, is the U.S. still around? No? Oh, damn it. I probably mourn the past for a bit. Like, oh, man.
How long?
But then I would just adapt.
How long would you mourn?
Well, I haven't done it yet, Paul.
So how long do you think you would mourn, sir? You're already making an aspect. I wouldn't do what she would do. I would mourn for a while. Like maybe 3 minutes.
Give me a week. I'll mourn for a week.
Okay, well, how long did this episode last?
5 years. But she's just so shocked. And I'm like, I can't imagine that she would be shocked. Like, yeah, time moves forward. Civilizations rise and fall. And, the Federation isn't a thing anymore. Okay. Yeah. You're 900 years. In fact, Federation had a damn good run. If you think about it, if it just ended and it's still kind of somewhat relevant, but not really, it's been around for a long, long time. Good on you. Well done, Federation.
Certainly a concept that is not foreign to our time is comparing the United States government to the fall of Rome. Some people have suggested that, people shouldn't feel so confident in our system in that it could fall. There's nothing, wrong with that. But
if somebody from 1100 came to modern day, whoop, whoop, they're like, wait, you mean the Normans still aren't in control of England? We don't have Vikings? I don't believe you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But as I expressed to you earlier, though, there's no comparable system, and it doesn't seem like there's a better system either.
Right. So what you're saying is it's not necessarily the Federation as a brand, it's just what they represent. She is mourning the loss of this unity, maybe, or the fact that there's some kind of unifying organization that can keep peace in this particular.
Yeah, I feel as if he said, the Federation. Oh wow, they haven't been called that in a long time. Now they're called the Gazpacho. I think she'd be like, oh really? Huh.
Oh well, maybe I should call them up.
Yeah,
I think she'd still be like, no, God,
right. But he says they're not around anymore after the burn. He's making it seem like it's a cataclysmic event. Yeah. It's something bad by definition, and it's not like here we are. It's like it's almost, at least as far as what we've seen so far, is it's like the Wild West, where people are, like, oh, okay, we're smuggling stuff, and, and we kill each other when we don't get where we are or whatever, It's like...
I had to sense, mixing genres here, but Star Wars: The Old Republic. It kind of feels like that. Like, looking back to this thing, I'm just thinking to myself, like, maybe the Federation had its time, didn't work out. In fact, she has reason to. They almost went out of existence during her short time on the Discovery, like multiple times.
Well, yes, but one of the things they were always saying, and that was the thing, right? Where they were like, "Oh, you're going to do this terrible thing." Well, that's not the goals of Starfleet, and therefore we, and all the officers then saying, "Yeah, we're not going to do something this terrible, kill a race just to, no, we're going to do." So again, it's like. Here is her being told basically, oh, your theory of living is actually false. The way that you were your galvanizing principle. Sorry, it didn't work. Just people working together to try to. That should upset her.
I got you. I do feel like though maybe it's time for a rebranding. Maybe gazpacho is what they should go with. But it's like, you know what? All right, Starfleet, blah 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 blah. Technically, we're Starfleet, but look, everybody, gazpacho. Hey, I'm the new commander of gazpacho. Meet my comms operator, Aditya. Anyway, I'm just saying, if it changes a little bit, I think it's okay. It doesn't have to be Starfleet.
Sure, but I think that's what the show is going to be about from now on. Is like, what is the new Starfleet? Is it gazpacho? So right now it doesn't seem like there's anything. We only have seen these couriers who are just like employees, as far as we know. Yeah. It's like, I mean, we don't know if it's some sort workers, of. We don't know if they're if that's just a job, like, or if it's a calling. Like, okay, you're part of our community, or you're,
Seems like a job. I mean, he's like, I get enough money or dilithium basically to get my next job. Come back. Occasionally I get to do my own gig, but for the most part I just do this. That's my gig. Do the thing. I keep alive.
Except that I feel as if they talked about like tenets of being a courier, though. I feel like they talked about that, which is a very Star Trek thing, which is doesn't like to look at employees so much as cultures as being monolithic. So. All the Klingons are like this, and all the Bajorans are like that, and
Well, speaking of like jobs versus calling, I mean Aditya. So this guy, he's an old man now.
Yes,
so
he is.
I know he's been there for a long time. Apparently, never seen a Starfleet.
Well, I imagine he's in his 50s or 60s because I think he says for 40 years or something. I mean, maybe as a child he was doing it, but.
Okay, good point. So, but he's alone. On a starbase?
Well, the remnants of it, right? Because it was destroyed. Yeah. So it's just one aspect of it that he's able to live in.
Well, okay, no. Yeah, it was destroyed before he moved there, probably.
Perhaps.
If it was during the burn, it probably happened before.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, maybe he's like, oh, good, this will work.
Because part of me thought, like, if he's on this base and then it got, really screwed up, like, maybe you leave. Maybe like, oh, okay. Everyone else died. I think I'll leave. No, but does he get? I know there's the issue of like, do people get paid? People do get paid. We've seen it. So is he getting? Who's paying him?
What? Wait. That's one of the interesting things about Star Trek, right? Because it's in the future where you have replicators that can make whatever food you want. Sure. And a lot of. I mean, the types of things they can do take massive amounts of energy. All this like teleporting and stuff around or whatever, and going with the speed of light.
You've got an alarm clock that looks like a bird. I mean,
yeah, right.
That's just.
So he might not need money so much as just a place, food and a place to pick a crap, and that's it.
But here's the other part about it though. That's like I'm like.
And it made me wonder too. Other than just sitting at this desk looking at a sector map, looking around for ships, I would think maybe he would be reading stuff. Let me learn more about the end of the. Yeah, right.
He is the welcome center. They're like come meet the attendant. Right. So he's waiting for people who never come.
Right.
At a desk. Woo!
Yes.
That is
Other than have whoever officer comes around put up a flag. Was there anything else that he was supposed to be doing?
Right.
I mean, maybe that his post was a part of a deep space command, because that's what they had. They have those deep space ones. They're Deep Space Nine is one we know about, but there are other deep space ones where it's like
Deep Space 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, where you're outside of a planetary system or something, and you're there to sort of be an ambassador for the Starfleet or whatever. So maybe that's what he's doing. Just sort of there to help bridge the gap between Starfleet and whichever area is there. Maybe that's what he's supposed to be doing.
Let's hope so. Because if he was 40 years completely isolated, sitting at a desk for a shift and then going to sleep, he would be crazy.
Yes.
It's like, should I take a vacation day? No, that probably wouldn't approve it. I'll just sit here at this desk.
Right. Well, yeah. That's hopefully we do learn more about him, really, because maybe he was just smarter than Burgess Meredith. And he's like, I've got Noxel 9 or whatever, so that I can look at whatever books I want.
Another small point is the when Burnham is crashing, she's in her suit.
Yes.
She has to communicate with the suit through vocal commands.
Yes.
Which it seems like there's a lot of problems with that potentially. One, she's under stress. She's yelling.
Sure. Yep.
She has to speak really fast. Like you can imagine, you might screw that up, and the computer's like, "Please repeat your query." Also, she's got pretty long. Like the text, I wrote it down. So she reboots. It's like rebooted. She says, increase power to reverse thrusters and activate impact shields.
Yes.
As she's falling to,
yes.
That's a tongue twister for one thing. Second of all, it takes time. You gotta push a button.
Yes.
You gotta push a button.
Well, sure. Well, so here's the thing. I mean, one of the things we're used to too in other shows is like, oh, this situation is occurring. Do you want me to do this? Here comes a big planet. Do you want me to initiate these protocols? and you'll notice in other shows it's actually not, we're doing this. I'm initiating this. So you have to, yes, it's a good idea. Keep doing that. Keep doing those things that saved my life.
Yes. Please save my life in this
moment.
So
that was the question. Do you want to live? Yes.
Activate.
I'm glad you asked me. I do want to live.
I can imagine just screwing up the verbiage as in the moment you're like, reverse power to increase. Oh crap! Never mind.
Yeah, maybe there's the stutters setting.
Yeah, right.
Initiate.
And you're dead. You killed the suit and yourself.
Yes.
Anyway, just saying, the tech maybe should be worked on to allow for some shortcuts. That's all. Keyboard shortcuts.
Sure. Yeah.
Control C, Control V. There, perfect.
Right.
I am interested to see where this is going. I do hope the crew shows up soon, because part of what I really like about Star Trek
the next episode they're going to show
how
up.
the crew interacts. So
that's a reason to watch the Ready Room. There is that typically at the end of the show, I guess they show it next week, but generally for a first episode season, they give you a sense of all the episodes. But in the Ready Room, they generally show you what's in the next episode, and it was a scene of the ship. What happens next?
Any final thoughts, good sir?
That's. I enjoyed this first episode, actually, considering we will talk later in the week about Lovecraft Country. It's a thing that I've enjoyed this weekend, is Star Trek,
That's a teaser
Discovery.
For our Lovecraft Country season and possibly series finale.
We can only hope.
Come back for that. But yes, thank you, Paul. We'll be back talking about Lovecraft Country, talking more about Discovery, and in a few weeks, talking about The Mandalorian.
Yes.
So, cool. All right, awesome. Thank you, sir. And we'll talk to you all later. Bye.
Bye.